Hello everyone, welcome to Week of Web. In this session, we will be diving into full stack development. We spent the last 5 days learning about front-end development. Today, we will be starting with the back-end architecture. I am your host for this session, and along with me, I have Deepshika Biswas, who will be teaching us about the theory of back-end development. So over to you, Deepshika.
Yes, thank you, Vinayak. Good evening, everyone. I am Dipshika, and I am a second year AI student. So this whole week we've learned about how about front end and what the users can see. Now we'll be going over back end. Now, what is backend development? Backend development is a part of full stack development that is not seen by the users, that runs under the hood. And what happens behind the scenes is just what happens in the backend part of the full stack development. So backend basically establishes a connection between the front end and the database, and it stores and fetches data for the web app, and it executes instructions. So, to understand this, let's take an example. All of us have visited YouTube. So, as soon as we open the website of YouTube, the server of YouTube, it fetches a few videos and displays it on your screen. So, the videos are basically, usually, it is based on your watch history or recommendations. And now after selecting a particular video, all the data of that video is fetched from the server and displayed on your screen. Now by data, I mean the number of views, the number of likes, the number of comments, and the description of the video. While the video is playing, the server of the YouTube also is simultaneously updating the number of views, the comments, the number of likes and dislikes. So everything, all the process that is happening here is a part of backend development. Now this is also referred to as the server side. Now one of the most important tools to start off with backend development is choosing a programming language. Now, there are many programming languages out there which could be used for developing the backend of an application. Some of them are Python, JavaScript, C Sharp, PHP, Ruby, and Java. So, the first step would be to become familiar with one of these languages so that we can use the corresponding framework that will help us write the backend for an application. So for Python, we have Django framework, and for C Sharp, we have .NET framework, and for JavaScript, we have Node.js. So since we've already learned JavaScript here, we will use Node.js. Now let's talk about database. So database is basically a collection of small-sized information, and it gives us a space to store the web's app data, whatever data is being fetched and whatever data is being requested and fetched is being stored in a database. So the database provides us an organized collection that gives us better accessibility and management of the data. And the main purpose here is to handle large amount of information that includes storing, fetching, and managing data using DBMS or database management system. It also adds a layer of security to the web data so that the data is not under any risk. Some of the few examples of a database are MariaDB, Microsoft SQL, MySQL, and MongoDB. Now we'll be talking about APIs. So APIs basically mean application programming interface. Now I'll be talking about an example that will help us understand APIs better. So let's say we've gone to a restaurant and we want to order something. So we are given the menu. Now this acts as an API catalog that displays what are the items available. Now we go through the menu and we select one item and we call for the waiter and place the order. Now the waiter takes the order and goes to the kitchen and requests and place the order for the food item. The waiter here is our API. It acts as an interface between the customer and the kitchen. So there's no direct communication between the customer and the kitchen. The only mode of communication is via an API or via a waiter. Now in the kitchen, there are multiple processes happening for the preparation of the food item. such as washing of the ingredients, cooking of the food, plating. All this is a part of backend. It's not being shown to the customer, and it's all masked by an API. So basically, our waiter here is the API. So API is a set of functions that allow interactions with the database, and one of the popular communication API is the REST API. So REST API follows the request and response cycle, and there are a few methods of protocols that are followed here. Let's go through it one by one. There's get method that uses to fetch data from the web server with along with the URI, which is also uniform resource identifier to identify which data is to be fetched. There's post method. Post method sends data from the user to the web server along with the URI. The put method replaces the data in the web server with the data sent by the user using an URI. And the delete method deletes the data in the web server by identifying which data is to be deleted. Now, depending upon the status response, it can be there can be 404, 200, 200, or 303. Now here 200 will mean a good response that your transaction or the process has been taken place, and 404 will be not found. Now let's talk about server. So a web server consists of both hardware and software that is working together. On the hardware side of the web server is a computer that stores software and data for the given application. On the software side, it includes rules and permissions for how the data stored on the hardware can be accessed. So this can be accessed using several request protocols, such as HTTP or Hypertext Transfer Protocol, SMTP or Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, and these are only a few to name. Now, I'll be talking about how an application works at its basic level. So when an application file is needed on the web server, it requests for the file using an HTTP request. The request connects to the web server and the protocol determines whether the request should be accepted or not. And then it searches for the file and sends it back to the application. Now, there are two kinds of web servers. There's static web server and there's dynamic web server. A static web server is it just hosts your front-end files and displays it every time the files are accessed. There's no back-end code to it to change the files every time it's being accessed. A dynamic web server is a static web server along with the software and a database. So the files that are to be fetched are processed and then fetched from the web server using HTTPS requests. Now, hosting providers, they store our backend code on their servers for the development of the whole website. So, for example, there's Microsoft Azure, there is Amazon Web Services, there is HostMonster and Hostinger, to name a few. And yeah, so now Vinayak will be taking over from here.
Thank you, Deepshika. That was a wonderful explanation about what is all involved in backend development. Now I'll get started and I'll share my screen. So yes, Deepshika explained us about how a backend is working together, how the server, how the database, how the API is created. All these things work together. But then let's be specific now. As Deepshika told, we'll be using Node.js for our development. So let us jump into Node.js now. So Node.js is not a programming language, but we have a programming language called JavaScript. Node.js acts as a runtime environment for that means it allows developers to use JavaScript on server. So if I tell you about the history of JavaScript, then this may be a lot clearer. So when JavaScript first came out in 1990s, it was designed as a simple scripting language to run in the browser. As web platform evolved, there were many developments in JavaScript, and in 2009 we got the initial release of Node.js. This was a big revolution, and it was impossible to write server-side code using JavaScript. So if this the initial release of Node.js actually brought JavaScript for the server side as well, and this is how the full front end and the back end both coming up to become a full stack was possible using a single language, and that was JavaScript. And then that is it. What Node.js is, it makes it possible to write server side code in JavaScript. And earlier, it was only be able to write front end for using JavaScript. Now let us talk about what Node.js does on a basic level. Like Deepshika explained us how a web server works on a basic level. So similarly, let's define it clearly with Node.js. Let us say you visit a URL on the internet that points to your web server. When this request is received by your web server, Node.js kicks, and then it uses several protocols. Like we have HTTP, one of it. We have uh, so the full form of HTTP is hypertext transaction protocol, and then we have another one called simple mail protocol, which is used for transaction of emails between them. So all these protocols actually define what are the rules to be followed during this transaction period, whether this person should be given the permission to access these files, or by which method this file should be transacted, how to actually look for the file in your web server. All these things is taken care by Node.js, and it handles the request and reads the file that is present in your web server, and then it responds back to your application where the actual file is displayed. So for example, a file could be an HTML file over here, and then it determines which HTML file is actually to be fetched from the source. Then later it's then processed whether there are some changes to be made in the HTML file. Then Node.js is also can also make changes depending on what file is present, what are the data present in our depend. It could make changes in our HTML file as well. And then the application just fetches the file from the web server and displays it in your application. This is how Node.js works on a basic level. So that was enough theory, right? Let us jump into our development environment. So this is VS Code I have present in front of me, and here we are going to use. We are first going to create a file called index.js. Now, previously I mentioned that how to open integrated terminal in our VS Code. So using that, we could use VS Code in two methods. First of all, we have something called REPL method, where REPL stands for read, evaluate, print, and this whole thing is in a loop. So it is reading, it is evaluating, and then it is printing in the terminal itself directly. And it is looping over it infinitely. So to use it, what we could do is just type node in our terminal. It will open in REPL mode. We could pass any command we like. So for example, if I have to log world, it will print hello world in the terminal directly itself. It will evaluate the command which I have passed, and it will display the output in our console itself. So if I were to create a variable itself over here itself, so I could just type let uh, age equal to 21. It will store that age, and then the next time when I access it, it will, let's say we log it, it will print out the value over there. So this thing runs in an infinite loop, but it is not so much helpful because we are not able to store this code. And then it may be good for playing around with the code, but then we need it to store also somewhere so that other people can access it and our server could access it. So the another method to access is using the file method. So let's say I write the same thing over here. I log hello world, and then I save it. Then how do I run this program in our in how do I run this index.js file in our node server? So to exit REPL mode, I'll press Ctrl C twice, and then what I have to do is I just have to write node and then the file name. So currently we are in the same folder. Always note that you are in the same path as your working directory. So to check that, I could just type ls and it will output all the files in the current directory. So as of now, I have index.js present over here. So I'll run this file. Then it will show me the output here. And this is how a file is run in our Node.js server. So we learned how to use Node.js. Now we'll learn about what is NPM. So NPM stands for Node Package Manager, and it can be used to get millions of data available or millions of packages available in our npm store itself. So if I show you it in our browser itself, I'll go to npmjs.org or npmjs.com. Here we have, it is similar to our app store we have for our mobile phones, where we could download any application we like from there. So if I were to search for any package I want, so let's say I want to download React, then this package is available here itself. And we can install it by using the npm commands itself directly from the command line. So it will show us which command we should run to install it. So if I head over to our VS Code and then I type npm, it should install the software we tell it. But before installing anything, we need to initialize it. So to initialize it, we just have to type npm init. And then when I enter, it will ask me for details which I need. So it will ask me what is your package. So by default, it will show the values which are there in the bracket itself. So it picks the name which I have for my folder itself. So it directly took that. I'll just press enter. It will ask which version it is. And similarly, I don't want to give any description. And this entry point asks us which file are you going to use for your server? Which file is your default, which should be run by our npm. So in this case, we'll have index.js. And then we don't need any test commands. We don't need any Git repository as of now. And then we could enter any keywords if we require, so that it will show up over here. It will show up all the keywords so present over here. And then people will be able to access it easier. We can enter the author as well. So I'll put my name here as of now. And then it will ask me which license we are using. After getting all the details, it will ask us whether all these details are correct. And if it is correct, then it will save the file, or else we'll have to run the script again. So is this okay for now? Yes, it is okay. And then you will notice that it will create a package.json file for us. This package.json file will contain all the details about our npm repository. And this npm repository can later keep a track of all the files we have, all the packages we have installed in it. So if I were to install any package here, let's say I want to install Express, which is a popular Node.js framework. So if I install Express, it will download it from the server, and then it will install it. And then you will see that it is adding dependencies as Express in our application. But that is one part where you can see we have installed Express. Over here, it is keeping a track of that. We have another thing created over here that is called node modules. So these node modules will contain all the files that are required when they are installed. Like in our Windows, when we install any application, we have it stored in our program files. Right? So in these program files, there are all the installed applications. Similarly, for npm, we have node modules where all the installed files are there, and mostly it is not good to touch it. So if you are making changes over here, then probably you're doing it wrong. So it is always best to keep this code intact, but it is possible that you could access this code. So feel free to access the code, but do not edit it. So another feature we have over here is package log.json. This will contain all the dependence and the sub dependencies. So for example, I installed Express, but along with Express, I installed a lot of things. Why? Because Express needs this all packages for it to work itself. So these files are kind of dependencies of our Express package, and that's why it is installing all of this. And this package.json, package log.json, could also work as a registry, which helps us install our files again. So in case I have to, if this node modules folder got deleted, so what will happen? It's easy. Just since you already have the package.json file and package log.json file, you just have to run npm install. I stands for install. And if I press enter, it will automatically install all the files again. So whenever you're storing your code in GitHub, or let's say you're hosting your application directly, then it is always a good practice to skip the node modules folder, so that because this folder may get really big in no amount of time, and then it will and then you have to transfer this code to another server as well. So to avoid all that, we don't include node modules folder and simply run npm I in our server directly, so that it will install it directly over there. And this was about npm. So we learned how to install an application using iExpress, and notice that this is installing in a repository directly. If we were to install any application globally, let's say on our system, we want all the repositories to use any npm package, then we can just simply type npm I, and then we can give a flag of G, which stands for global. And then let's say I want to install nodemon, then it will install nodemon on our system directly, so that all our repositories can access it. And with this, we are done with npm. So Node.js comes with its pre inbuilt modules. We can, of course, access. We could create our own modules as well, but it comes with its own modules as well. So now we are going to learn all of these modules. So before learning how to use modules, first I'll tell you how can we create our own module, and then how importing and exporting works. So I'll create in index.js itself. Let's say I have another file called person.js. And in this person.js, I have an object, a JavaScript object I have called person. And inside this person, I can show the properties of this person. So let's say we have name, and I'll give it my name. And then I can give him some age as well. So I'll add my age over here. And with this, our object is ready. Let's say I want to use this object in some other file. Let's say I want to use this person properties in my index.js file. So what I will do is I will make it ready for exporting. So how to do that? We'll use the module inbuilt functionality, and then I'll type export. And in this export, what we are exporting, we need to mention that. So I'm exporting the person object. And now in my index.js file, I'll import that file. So importing works like we can store it to a function, or I can store it to a variable. And let's name this variable person. And this person can then be imported. So how do we import it? We use the require object over here. Use the require method over here, and this require method takes the argument of the file location. So if I add an array of file location and then I press on dot, if you don't mention dot, dot means our current working directory. And inside this current working directory, if you don't mention the current working directory, it will look for its inbuilt functions. That is all the modules, its inbuilt modules it will look for, or else it will look in the node modules folder. So always mention to put the dot over there. So when you put the dot, the current working directory, and then a slash, then we can select our person's file. And then let's say we need to use this file as well. We need to do something helpful with this file. So what we could do is let's create a function. So I'll add a function called greet. and greet will take some argument. So for now, I'll call it E. Just define this function. So this function basically just shows the name and the age of the person. So I'll log it, and then I'll use the backtick method to define the string. This is called a template string, and then I can just type over here directly. I am and then we'll access the argument called, and then inside this argument we are using the dot operator to access all our object variables defined inside our object. So I'll type e dot name, and then I am Vinayak, and I am this many years old. So I'll put age over here, e dot age, years old. Now I can call this function, and inside this function I can pass imported values. So here I have imported person, so I'll put the imported person object and I'll save. Now I'll run this index.js file, and it will show me this string direct. That is how we use import and export statement to access other variables of present in some other file. And this is how we are doing it in Node.js. Whether as in it was if we were using it ES6 version of JavaScript, it's basically directly import function itself, which we can say like import person from person.js. So I'll put dot person.js. But if we are using this, it will not work because Node.js doesn't have this implementation yet. And this was available in ES6 version of which is quite not yet present in our Node.js as of now. So if I show you whether it works, I'll comment this, and when I run this, it will give me a syntax error because import doesn't exist at all in Node.js. So never use this import statement we should have in JavaScript in our Node.js application. And that is how we import and export state. But let us learn about what are the available. Yes, so now let us talk about all the modules which we have already present in our Node.js. So for demonstration, I'll you create a folder called reference, and inside this, let us talk about uh, the first module, that is called path path module. So I'll create path dot, or I can't use the file name directly path because it already exists in our Node.js. So I have to give it some other name. Right? Path demo.js. And in this path demo.js, this path demo.js is used to basically play around with the location of files or folders. So let us first import it from uh, library. So let us import this library first. So I can just type const path require path, and with this we have imported this. And now let us learn about how to get the present file name which we are working on. So to do that, we will just let us make it a little organized. I'll write base file name, and then we could just use the variable to access our base file name called path dot base name, and in this base name we'll pass the attribute as file name. Now I can open this in our node folder, but notice our location, we are in the root of our project. So let us change our directories now. So to change our directory, we use the cd command, which stands for change directory, and then I can simply type ref, and then I can just run this file. So when I run this file, it will give me the file name which we are in currently. So this path.demo file is being printed over here. Similarly, we can print the directory name, the directory where we are working over here. So if I So to print directory, what we have to do is we can simply copy this now, and instead of base name, we'll use dir name, and then we'll pass the file name again. So now if we see this, if we run this, we'll see the output of the full location where our file is present. So out, that is our output over here. Now we can also input extensions, and we can have all of this in our one object as well. All the extensions, base name, directory name, all this can be present in an object itself directly. So to use that object, what we will run is, instead of the directory name, we'll use parse, and then we'll pass in our file name, and then it will display an output of an object which has all the properties of our file. And there are several other methods, but we don't have time to cover them all. So let us move ahead. Now we'll discuss about the file system. We'll discuss about the file system our module, file system module now. So to import a file system, before that, let us create the file fs demo.js, and fs in fs demo.js. The first thing what we have to do is, yes, you're correct, import the directory now. So let us do that. We'll import the path as well so that we could use it along with our file system module. And then let us, what is file system? By file system, we understand that all our folder structures, all our, how the way our files are stored, all these things are managed by the file system. And this could be, now we will use this functionality of file system in our Node.js application. So to do that, first of all, let us learn how to create a folder. So to do this, we have a function called fs, a function in our files module called make directory. To access it, we could just uh, type fs mkdir, and then inside mkdir, we can pass in the directory which we want to create. So let us say I want to create a directory name, but before that we need to pass in from where we should create the directory. So I want to create the directory from the present file itself. I want to take the directory path, our whole path of our present file itself. To do that, we'll just type dir name, and then I'll pass in the path name. So to pass the path name, I'll use another functionality of our path module called join. So if I use path.join over here, and then I pass dir name over here. So this is the first one which we are using. First of all, we are starting from our fs demo file path, which is over here. This, and we'll add some file, add some folder structure to it. To do that, uh, we'll use the path join function. Now we can separate it using our commas. Now I'll pass test over here, so it will create a test folder inside it. And then, as of now, I don't want to use the third parameter of this function, so I'll just pass in an empty object, and then inside this I'll pass in some functionality. So this is called a callback function. So if I get you to the documentation of Node.js, here you can access all the documentations of Node.js. And inside this, we have all the functionality present. It explains everything, all the functions we have in Node.js, all the models we have in Node.js, all of them are there. So inside this, we'll access the file system one, or let us access the path one. And inside this path one, I'll show you the join one. So the join command basically takes all the parameters and then makes it into one path name. So that is clear. Now we'll look for the file system command. we have file system over here, and inside file system, we are going to create a folder. So let us search for the create folder command. Yes, we have mkdir present over here. So if you see, it is taking two parameters. First one is the path where you want to create the folder, and the second one is a function where you pass in some values, and you pass in, first of all, you pass in the name of the folder you want to create, and then you pass in some function. This function is called a callback function. So the definition of a callback function is when a function is called and then it requires to run some other function inside it simultaneously, and that is possible by using callback functions where we pass in uh, the function inside parameters directly. So now we'll just implement it. It will so we are passing an error parameter over here. So in case if our folder is not created, then what it will do is it will just end the it will just print some error over here, and then if everything goes well, we can just log that our folder is created. And I need to end this join command over here directly. Yes. So now when we see, we are ending this function over here. So let me check whether everything is fine now. So this is ending here and this should end here. Yes, now it is correct. So now if I run this file itself, so I can use the command node fsdemo.js, then it will throw me an error. It will say that the callback function we defined here is not correct. So let us fix that now. So now we will check whether our function is declared properly. So here we are passing the parameters. Here our function is starting, and then we have an if statement where if there is some error, it will throw, or it will just console log folder created, and this seems to be correct now. Then let us check our mkdir function. So we have the directory name declared before itself, so we should have declared it over here. It will take in two parameters, correct? And then we don't have anything to pass in as our second argument, so we'll just pass in an empty object over here. And now let us try this out. It will show that folder is created. So this is the function we declared over here. So this function is the function we created, but the main function which we wanted to create or implement was mkdir. So you see both the functions are simultaneously run, and then we see the test folder is created over here. Now to write into a file system also means we can write into a file. So let us create a file now and write something into it. To do that, we have another function called write. So I'll copy this over here and I'll put write file over here. You see, when I type the function, VS Code will automatically suggest what all functions are available into the FS module, and we can select from it itself directly. So now we'll pass in the folder where we want to create our file, and then remember this empty object. This time we are going to pass in the file name we need over here. So let's type hello.txt over here into a string. And now the file name will be hello.txt, or we have what function we need to implement. So let us do that now. So what do we want to pass into our file directly? So that could be our fourth parameter. So now I'll type it. So the file called hello.txt should have hello world written inside it, and then we could user callback. Now let us write the callback file created and return. Now, as soon as I save, I have an extension called Prettier installed in me. What it will do is it will automatically adjust all the indentations for me so that this code is more readable. So if I go to extensions over here and show you, we have something called Prettier over here. This extension will format our code automatically so that it is much more readable for us. So heading back to our file. Now let us run this. We have another error over here. What is it? It is saying that file already exists. That is because we are creating the same file over here again. We are creating the same file over here. So we'll just remove this for now. And then it also ran this function now. So after running this function, it is creating hello.txt over here. So let us delete this and try it out again. And then we are having a callback which is saying that this function is successfully run, and then inside here we have hello world printed inside, and that is what we needed. But if you notice that if we have to add something to this file, if we run this command again to write into it, so let us say I copy it again, and then I put, instead of hello world, I put hey there. And then when I run this again, we have 2 times printed because we run this function 2 times now. And then if I see there, it is just saying, hey there. It is not saying hello world now. So the problem here is, and also you can see the last 2 letters of our hello world. That is happening because it is overwriting over this file. And to avoid that, we have another functionality called append file. So again, let us head back to our file. I will copy this, and then let us comment this up so that it doesn't run again. And then inside, instead of write file, I'll write append file. And in append file, what we have to do is we have to first pass in the path of our file. So that is done here. And then we have to pass in what we have to print inside the file. So here, let's say I love Node.js. Then when I save, let us write here file rewritten. And now when I run this command again, it will say file is rewritten, and then it will, along with what was written earlier, it will show I love Node.js as well. So whatever is written inside here, it will add on to it. And that is all about file system. Now let us look into another module called HTTP module. So before HTTP module, I would like to show you URL module as well. So heading back to a reference folder, I'll create a new file called URL module or called URL demo. And again, as usual, I'll import URL module from here. And then let us define some URL which it could access. As so I'll just define one URL template URL over here. So if you notice, this is coming in green color now. That means it was a predefined object in our Node.js module. And then I could just type HTTP at my website .com /hello.html. And then along with it, I'll pass some parameters as well. So every URL has some parameters defined in it, which could be accessed by using the question mark operator. And then we could just define all the variables which we are passing into our URL itself. So I'll pass in some ID called 100, and then I'll pass in another variable called status. So let us give status equal to active. Now that this is done, let us use the URL functionality. So first of all, let us print what URL we have. So to do that, what we'll do is we use console.log again. And here I will grab my URL, which is a URL object, and then I'll just type href, which stands for hyper link reference. So when I run this command now, let us see what happens. We will get the complete URL printed into our console itself. This URL is a serialized URL, and we cannot access it and make changes to it as ever we want. So to make changes to it, what we can do is instead we can convert it to a string. To convert it to a string, we'll use the functionality called toString, and then we will run it. So what happens it is the same thing to be displayed, but this is now a string file, a string data type. Instead of here, it was an URL object. Instead of URL object, we are getting a string now. And then we could use all the string operations, like we could add to the string, we could add some other parameters if we want. All the things is possible now. And now let us use some other possible URL objects now, or URL methods over here now. So now we saw href. Let us see host now. I run this command now. I'll make a comment of it so that it doesn't run, and then I'll run it. So we are getting the host of our website, which is mywebsite.com. But if I see, we have another thing, another method called hostname, and this hostname will let's see what does it output. It will output the same thing, but let's say there were some ports defined over here. Let's say I have port 8080 present over here. So what will happen now? So if I run, the difference between the host and the host name is that it will display the port number along with the actual host name. But if you want to access only the host name, then we can use the host name method over here. And then similarly, we have other functionalities like the path name, which will give the path name of the complete file. So we'll have the output till here. So if I run it now again, before that I need to save the file. And then it will give me the file name which we are using. So the path name is hello.html now. And then I could use the full search operation which was performed. So let us see that. I have something called search over here. If I run it, it will give me basically everything that is after the question mark. That is all the parameters present. But to access all the parameters, we have another thing called search params itself, which will return me an object of all the parameters we have. Now we have an object called URL search parameters, which will return each individual objects to me, and then I can iterate through it. So to iterate through it, what we could do is we could simply copy this and define it, or let's say I use the for each method, or the for each method on it. We will first see, we'll first pass a function inside it. So our function will take two arguments, that is the value and then the name. And inside this, let's define the function now. Our function will be, let's say, again, let's log it. You can change these parameters as well, by the way, like how we change, can convert it to string and then add on to it. All that is possible by just selecting this object using this object and using the dot operator to access all the variables of the object. So now let us log through it. Let us say here name, and then I will just put a colon and then the value I'll print out. Now let us see what happens. It will print me the string with each value and name along with it. And that is it about URL method now. What are the other methods we have is something called operating system method, in short called OS method. We have HTTP method, which I'll be showing you right now, and there is event method. There, if you go into it, like I mentioned in our Node.js module, we have so many things defined, and so many each method we have so many methods, and inside each method there are so many things. But here I'm just showing you what are some things which we actually use during our development. So let me show you HTTP module as well now. So let us see HTTP demo. And then again, let us just get it from our header itself. So I'll just put HTTP equal to require HTTP, and that will grab the file from our inbuilt functionality itself. So now let us say I want to create a server using a HTTP command. So what I can do is I could just use HTTP dot create server, and then it will get a function inside it which will take the request and the response. Remember what Deepshika told us, that HTTP manages how the request is taken and what to respond back to the server, what to take from the client and what to respond back to the client. All these things is possible by using HTTP itself. So this is the software part. Hardware, we know for the web server, the hardware part is like the data centers you have seen in the movies, where we have bunch of drives in a big room. We have a lot of computers, and those lot of computers connected to a lot of those hard disks store all the data, and all those computers keep accessing all the data from those hard disks, and then it keeps we can access those data using internet. All this is possible by using HTTP. So the software part, we are coding it now. So the first one we can say is what should be responded back. So let us just give them a file which will just give them, let's say hello world written in it. And then every server should return something, or it should end at some point of time. So after running all this, it will end the complete response itself. So we'll just put the response has been ended by using this command. And then this the dot create server will also look for where should it actually give the output, to which API call should it give the output. So to do that, I'll use something called listen, which will listen to which server it should access. So I'll just give it a port 5000 for now. And then let us give it some callback function to know whether this is actually working or not. So that something is outputted in our terminal. So to do that, I'll just add here some log, which some console log. So let us say server started over here, and then I'll save it. Now, if I run this file, what will happen? This will be quite interesting. So let us go to our reference folder. We are in the reference folder, and inside reference folder, we have HTTP demo file. So let us run that file now. And it is saying server started. So if we head to our browser now and then type localhost 5000, it will return us hello world. And that is how a server is created and a response is taken back from it. I'm going to port 5000, and then the root of 5000 is returning me hello world. That is how a server is creating a response request pair among itself. And now this session is going very long, right? We'll studied about all the, not all the Node.js modules, but a sum of it and the most important modules or the most important objects present inside it. So what is the next part? We saw how a Node.js server looks like, but what does a complete Node.js server look like? Because we haven't seen a website which will just show hello world to us, right? There are a lot of elements inside it. So if I show you that, so as of now, we are already at 5 o'clock. And then if I were to write a complete server now, it will take me a lot of time. So I'll show you what goes inside and then you will appreciate it. So I'll create a new window, and inside this window, I'll select somewhere where I have tested all these HTTP codes and how to create a server. And then when I open this folder, I'll just type open folder over here. It will give me something like this, and then we have all the references over here, and then we have index.js written over here. In this index.js, we haven't used anything new over here. We have used the HTTP method, we have used the path method, and we have used the file system method. And inside this file system method, we are creating a new file which is reading a file, and then it is defining the status code 200, whether everything is working fine, then return the status code 200 to us. And then it is of HTML type, and then it will return us the content which is passed in our function itself directly. Similarly, we can use it for API calls where we will use JSON files. So let's say this was our JSON file, then we would access it, and then we'll define that we are using a JSON file directly, and JSON file cannot be accessed directly. We have to convert it to JS file. So for that, what we'll have to do, we'll use function called js.stringify, which will convert a JSON file to a JS, and then we can further use it. Similarly, we have all these things where we are seeing the file path. We are creating a public folder like we created in our to-do list application. We created a public folder, and inside that we had all the static files were HTML files, the image files, the CSS files. So we need to recognize which file we are actually accessing as well. So for that also we have another switch case where it is checking which content type is present as of now. And by using xname, it was present in our path module, xname, where it will take the path, the file we are currently in, and then it will display the extension of it. So if I were to pass index.js in it, it will return me the JS for extension name. And then by this, it will detect that the content type is JavaScript. Similarly, if I pass CSS file, it will detect CSS file. And all these things is taken care, which file type you are accessing. Then we have where it should be displayed. If there is no HTML file, then what should we do? And let's say we don't have a file at all. The file, let's say I put some gibberish in our URL, then what it should give us some 404 page, right? Then we have something for that as well, where it checks whether the path is currently put in it, whether we have a path properly put it in, and then we'll pass a 404.html file, which will have all the styles and all the elements in it, and it will display beautifully that it didn't find. So yeah, all these things goes inside in it. And then we learned also how a server listens. So all these things are going inside our HTTP server, HTTP create server function, and then we are just storing it in a variable so that we can just simply in the end put server.listen and then run it in our port. Here we have another thing called process.env. Let's say we have some other port. Instead of, what it will do is it will check whether we have some other port. If this returns false, then it will listen on port 5000, and then it will be listening on port 5000. That is how it works. And all these things is a very long written thing, right, where each and every parameters need to be checked manually. And for that, we have something called Express.js, which I told you is an NPM module. This Express.js does all these things automatically for us so that we can focus on building our website itself. And instead of finding all these things, which will be every time you write some server-side code, all these things will be present there definitely. And all these things are already present in Express framework. So in the next session, we'll learn how to write all these things in an Express frame. We'll also learn about how a database is, and we'll make changes to those databases using Firebase Firestore. So I'll explain everything about Firebase Firestore, and I'll explain you how to make APIs and how to create routes, how to use the CRUD functionality of the database. And by CRUD, I mean for C, it stands for create, R stands for read, U stands for update, and D stands for delete. All these four functionalities should be implemented in a database. So how to write all these CRUD functionality, that also we'll discuss. So tomorrow's session will be a very important one for us, right? So that is how a Node.js server looks like. Now let us have a recap of what all we completed. All these parts where we first in the day one we completed setting up our environment. We learned how to use Git and GitHub, and then we learned about what is the basic architecture of front end. And then we learned how to create the architecture using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In JavaScript, we learned how to make DOM manipulations so that we can bring interactivity to our application. And then today, we learned about the basics of backend architecture. So that is all for now. Do you have any questions? All right. So it is obvious that all these things need to be done by you, first of all, and then only you will have many questions in your mind. So if you want to do this, just head over to Coders Capsule on Medium. All these things which I have explained now is present in my blog called, in my personal blog called Coders Capsule. Here I have written all the notes for you so that you don't have to take it during the session. So just head over to Medium and then search for Coders Capsule. You'll find the articles which I have written for this week of. And then if you're still finding it difficult to find the articles, just search for week of web over here, which will give you the homepage of the article, which is completely only dedicated to week of web. Here in the last part, I have all the parts of our series mentioned over here, and then till 8 parts of the series, all the notes are available. I will be adding to it as the time passes. So keep a check on Coders Capsule as well. Along with that, try all these things out yourself. All the code will be given to you over Coders Capsule itself, and that is all from my side. Thank you for being here, and we will be back tomorrow to learn databases and Express framework. Till then, bye bye.